When I was a student, I worked part-time in the warehouse at Mighty Ape. It was a busy time for the online retailer, and orders flooded into the growing business. Being just an entry-level picker involved getting a list of items to collect from around the huge warehouse. We had these scooter trolley things that you could fly around on to collect your order as fast as possible. You had to beep the horns when you came around corners. It sounds like a fun place to work, right? But we weren't just goofing around. Everything was tracked for efficiency, and there were KPIs for everything. As a casual employee working 1 day a week, I never really got fast enough to hit my numbers consistently. I lived in constant fear of being pulled up for slow picking, or worse, being publicly shamed for what we called a mispick, where you returned the wrong item and then the packaging team sent it back. Then you'd have to go and return the item, get the correct one, and then you'd be even further behind on your numbers. If you performed well as a picker, you could work your way up to being a packager. And that was the dream, because you got your own desk, you could keep your drinks by you. A lot of energy drinks were drank in that warehouse. You could listen to your own music and you could chat to the other packagers. But there were still KPIs in that role. Actually, the only job that didn't have KPIs was one of my favorites, and that was flattening cardboard boxes. When things were really quiet, the manager would give a couple of us Stanley knives and we'd be free from the rush. But the role that I seemed to end up on the most was the one that no one wanted, and that was what we called being on the line. This is where all the conveyor belts fed. All 6 packaging lanes fed onto the line. It was like a river fed by 6 different streams, flowing down with boxes packed full of DVDs, supplements, best-selling books, and bobblehead figurines. All these fed down to you on the line. And your job was to put the sealed air into the box to protect the purchases, and then send it through the tape machine to seal the package for distribution. When it was quiet, being on the line was actually a great job. It was really satisfying. And when things built up a little bit, but you could manage the flow, it was even better. You were crushing it. But at peak times, the flow down the line surged like a river ready to flood. Sealed air, ready, tape machine. Sealed air, ready, tape machine. Grab, shove, right, grab, shove, right. Quick check the shoulder to see how many boxes are coming. Grab, shove, right, more boxes. Traffic building, no space to breathe. Oh, fumble one box, pick it up. Oh, the items fell out. Now the boxes are pressing into the tape machine. At this point, you can choose. You can either let the boxes fall to the floor, try and catch up, and then wait for a break and bring them back in. Or you hit the dreaded stop button. Bring all the belts to an abrupt halt and prepare for the shouts from the packers who want to know why all the lines just stopped. As the boxes kept coming, flooding over the sides, contents spilling out, and then the sealed air machine decides to run out just at that moment, I end up working through another morning tea just to catch up on the boxes. And I begin to wonder, is my casual Friday job really worth this much stress? It wasn't. For many of us, our lives often feel like that conveyor belt, overwhelming us with too much, too fast, and we push things out. I'll get to that tomorrow, next week, next year. And our relationships, commitments, and emails spill over the edges of our calendars and into the places that we wanted to protect. In short, many of us are struggling to keep up with the pace of life. But there's a key difference between us and my story. We are not warehouses. Productivity is not our primary measure. You, listener, are not an efficiency machine. You are a human being. So how do we regain control of our lives? That's what we're going to be exploring this summer. Today we start a 5-week meander through a series called the Summer Slowdown. Every season has its gift, and summer, especially Kiwi summer, is one of slowness, ease, and joy. This series is an invitation to follow the natural rhythm of life in Aotearoa and to embrace the opportunity to take a real rest, to slow your mind and your body, settle into stillness, and listen to the voice of Jesus. This series has been framed by the folks at Practicing the Way, who create free resources to equip the church to be with Jesus, become like him, and do as he did. And along with our weekly sermons, there are a variety of ways you may choose to slow down this summer. We've provided a range of these on our website, including prayer times, further readings, even a community cookbook which can help you coordinate the perfect potluck with your life group. So as we ease into the new year and into our series today, our passage comes from Luke's Gospel, chapter 10, verses 38 to 42. As Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary, who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, "Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me." "Martha, Martha," the Lord answered, "you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her." If you've been around church for a while, there's a good chance that you've heard a lot about this story already. Although it's only recorded in Luke's Gospel, it preaches well, as we preachers say, and it gets a lot of airtime. It genuinely is one of my favorite teaching moments of Jesus. But what I'd never noticed or celebrated until preparing to teach today was the dramatic way that this story empowers women. New Testament scholar Tom Wright points out that at the heart of this story is not the comparison of a busy sister and a contemplative sister, but a sister complying with the expectations and gender roles of society at the time, and a sister unashamedly flaunting them. Mary, Wright says, is behaving like a man. That's not what I'd thought about before. And Mary doesn't just behave like any man. To sit at Jesus' feet was not just to adore him, as we often think, but to apprentice under him. It was what you did if you wanted to be a rabbi yourself. In Wright's words, Mary has quietly taken her place as a would-be teacher and preacher of the kingdom of God. So here she is at the feet of Jesus when everyone apart from Jesus expected her to be with her sister in the kitchen. And Jesus praises her for it. He says, "This woman can, and no one will take it away from her." Our theme today is slowing our outer lives. And maybe in order to do that equitably, we still need to make space for women to rest from the expectations of society, to raise a family while rising the career ladder and staying fit and being Nadia Lim in the kitchen and catering for the next church event. As men and as a society, what expectations are we placing on women which prevent them from slowing down to sit at the feet of Jesus? And perhaps I could also ask the women among us, what expectations are you placing on yourself which prevent you from slowing down to be with Jesus? Of course, guys, including myself, absolutely need to hear this message too. And our summer series is very much an encouragement for all of us to slow down. But in order to be faithful to the text in its original context, we do need to hear this point about the importance of women first. And now we can continue with what you might call a more gender-neutral message. Pete Scazzero learned a life-changing lesson when his wife Jerry said that she would no longer attend the New York church that he pastored. He had almost destroyed his marriage and himself by this point in service of the church. This turning point led Pete and Jerry to completely rethink ministry and discipleship and to develop what they call emotionally healthy discipleship. A ministry that runs to this day which seeks to help believers and churches live and lead from a deep inner life with Jesus. One of their principles is that our doing for Jesus must flow from our being with Jesus. Pete Scazzero notes that we often equate the two as though doing for God was the same as being with God. But they are not. In his words, I can do things for a person without a relationship with them. In our passage, Martha completely focuses on doing for Jesus, preparing the meal, tidying the house, straightening the cushions, choosing the right music, setting the right vibe. All these things distract her from actually being with the person she's preparing for. Mary, on the other hand, recognizes an opportunity to be with Jesus, to sit at his feet, to hang on his every word, to be fully present to him. Of course, Christian life involves doing good, serving God and others 100%. This is not about hiding away forever in personal bliss with Jesus, but it is about our doing for God, flowing from our being with God. If our rhythms of being with God cannot sustain our doing for him, we will end up in serious trouble. We'll end up on a church version of the Mighty Ape conveyor belt. This summer presents you an opportunity to reflect on how you balance being and doing. And maybe it's also an opportunity to cut down on your screen time. When was the last time that you checked your screen time? A metric that I've been challenged to look at recently is what's called pickups. iPhone pickups refer to how many times you physically lift or activate your phone, counting actions like tapping, raising to wake, or pressing buttons, even without unlocking. These all show usage patterns and help managing digital well-being. Over the last 3 weeks, my average pickups per day was 68. That's 68 separate times that I check my phone in a day. Sometimes to respond to something, but often, if I'm honest, just to look for notifications, or just to open Instagram to scroll and then move to Facebook and then back to Instagram, deliberately distracting myself. For many of us, it's become an unconscious action that we do without even thinking about it anymore. I did feel a bit better about my 68 pickups when I looked at the studies and they reported numbers from 40 to 140, with many users picking up their phone over 100 times a day. But still, I reconnect with my digital world 68 separate times a day. How many times do I reconnect with God? I'm not sure I want to answer that question publicly, but what I can say is that it's not 68. And it's not an unconscious habit in the way that I reach for my phone. If you're feeling the same conviction that I'm feeling right now, let us hear the words that Jesus says so kindly, but directly to Martha. Martha, Martha, you are worried and anxious about many things. I doubt there are many people listening who couldn't insert their name directly into that sentence. Aidan, you are worried and anxious about many things. And yes, that would not be wrong. But even for us anxious, distracted, and scattered souls on the conveyor belt of life, there is hope. And we have a choice to make. Listen to what Jesus says to Martha about her sister. He says, Mary has chosen what is better. She has chosen to slow down her outer life. She has chosen not to conform to the way of the world around her. She has chosen to prioritize being with Jesus over doing for him. She has chosen to allow herself to be unproductive. Friends, no one else will make that choice for you. I often act as if my busyness and pace of life is not my choice, as though it's something that just happens to me. But in reality, I have chosen my commitments, and the responsibility to steward my life, my energy, and my spirituality lies with me. Last year, becoming both a full-time pastor and a father drastically changed my lifestyle, and it definitely took some time to adjust. My time with God, with friends, and myself took a hit. But by the end of the year, I realized that although I had a lot of changes, I still had choice about where to put my time. If I wanted to carve out time to go to the gym, I could. If I wanted to go out on a date night with my wife, I could. If I wanted to catch up with a friend for a beer, I could. Even if I wanted to get away with God for a whole day, I could. But those things weren't just going to happen. I had to choose them. Mary chose what is better. This summer and this year, what will you choose? Will you choose to continue to burn the candle at both ends, to find your value in your productivity, to equate doing for Jesus with being with him? Will you continue to be a victim of your circumstances, or will you choose what is better? Will you choose time with Jesus instead of ticking off another item on your to-do list? Will you choose to invest time simply being with him and allow your doing for him to flow from that relationship? To that end, here are some suggestions that you may like to try this January. These are designed that they can be done in community, with your life group, your family, or the group that you go camping with. Here's some examples. Choose a phone-free or streaming-free day each week. You may like to tie this in with practicing a weekly Sabbath or a day of rest. Test out the community recipe book that I mentioned earlier, inviting friends over for a well-planned potluck. When you head out on the road this summer, this one's for me, take your time. Don't obsess over speed or overtaking every car that's going 1 kilometer per hour slower than you. Yes, I am definitely talking to myself here. Slow down to the pace of the car in front of you and enjoy the ride. How about reading an actual book or even a physical newspaper? Try a 2-minute daily breath prayer such as, "Be still and know that I am God." You could delete social media or email apps from your phone for the duration of your summer break. At the end of the day, these are just ideas, and you can come up with your own or try some of these. The point is that slowing our lives isn't some ethereal thing. It's tangible and practical, and we can choose it. Let's close with a prayer written by Practicing the Way for this first week of our series. Father, help us not to busy ourselves when it's time to rest, to pray, to admire, and to abide in the beauty and wonder of your Son. Teach us to be like Mary when it matters, and to love you more than the work we do. Amen. Thank you so much for joining us in this first week of our Summer Slowdown series. May you be blessed as you go and as you rest this week. Continue to check out these resources that we've made available to you, and in your resting, in your being with Jesus, may you know his presence with you, his favor over you and that you don't need to be productive all the time. See you next week.